To acknowledge and pay our respect to the traditional elders and owners of this land. The aura of Australia is from its people. And thank you all for coming here today on behalf of Social Impact Club and Volunteer Army. I would like to thank Stephen and David for being here today. Stephen is an accomplished event specialist with over 20 years of experience in corporate, sport and not-for-profit sectors. Stephen has been with Cystic Fibrosis New South Wales for over 2 years as their event manager and has held similar positions with the Smith family, Children's Cancer Institute, CPA Australia and Sydney Olympic Organising Committee. David is currently a 4th year medical student at UNSW, completing his clinical placements at St. George Hospital with a special interest in pediatric medicine. He was also the Volunteer Army Coordinator in 2014. Both these guests here will be sharing information with us regarding cystic fibrosis today. So, prepare yourself to be educated and inspired. Just so before we proceed and our guests start speaking, I would like you all to know the day's agenda. We have an information session, this followed by a question Q&A session by them, and then we will all head to the courtyard for a barbecue. Stephen?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? I'd rather not use the microphone if that's okay. My name is Stephen Gallagher. I work for Cystic Fibrosis New South Wales and I've been there for about 2 years. From my background, which you heard really doesn't qualify me to talk about the medical components of this disease. I work in the events side of things. I'm a fundraiser, so I do a lot of the activities that raise money for the organisation. We have about 15 staff in New South Wales and we look after about 1,000 people in New South Wales who are affected with cystic fibrosis, and beyond that there's the families, friends, workplaces and everything that comes along with that. So I'll talk a little bit about our organisation and I'll hand over to David, who will actually give you some more specifics about the condition and how that affects people. I apologise for Danny McClellan, who couldn't be here today. Danny is on our board and herself is a sufferer with the condition. She got some kind of virus fairly recently, and probably for some of us that we might continue to go to work or take a day off. For people with CF, often that means being hospitalised, and that's actually what's happened to Danny today. My role in events is I come into contact with a lot of people with CF. Another one of our board members was hospitalised a week or so ago. He's now on the lung transplant program, and one of the committee members that I had a meeting with today for our ball, her son has just gone into hospital. So it's a fairly debilitating disease, and David will go into what that means. But I just ask if anyone here knows that they have, that they're a carrier with CF. Does anyone here have any idea? Well, generally 1 in 4 people aren't carriers, and you wouldn't know unless you had a partner with CF, you decided to have kids, and then there's a 1 in 25 chance that your child will be born with CF. My family do, my dad does, and we didn't know till my cousin, who was probably into his 15th year of marriage and had his 3rd child had CF, so we found out. My 3 sisters, 2 of them are carriers, and 1 sister and I don't. So David will go into some more on that. I'll just give you a couple of quick. This is Danny's presentation, and Danny was really speaking more about the condition and how it relates to her in both her physical, professional, and domestic life. So, as I mentioned, 1 in 25 carry the gene. So there's probably about 30 of us here. There'd be 7 people or 8 people in this room that carry it that don't know. Nowadays, there's a pinprick, what's it called, David, when they had at birth?
It's a heel prick test. So all babies in New South Wales when they're born, they get a heel prick and we take a little bit of blood to test for a number of different conditions that they might have. I might decide to look later on.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned, 1 in 25 people carry the gene. There's no cure, there's no respite, and there's about 3,000 people in Australia. There's no day off from CF. They have to have all sorts of treatment every day, a number of tablets, and when we're sick, we might have a day off. It's not like that for these people. Most people won't turn 40. 20 years ago, most people wouldn't turn 20, so there's been some major headway, but there's still quite a long way to go. CF is Australia's most commonly occurring genetically inherited condition. It's little known. There's not a lot of. It's not like a lot of the other charities that you would have heard about, the Cancer Council, Len McGrath, Shane Warne's Foundation, some of those. I mean, ours, it's kind of considered a rare disease, and as a result, we don't get the sort of funding and we don't get the sort of support that some of those bigger charities get. CF is progressive in nature and eventually life-limiting. As I mentioned, my colleague and board member who's just been hospitalised, he's 22 and just been put on the lung transplant program. Basically, the lungs cop the most with CF because of the sticky mucus that it produces, and David will actually go in and explain how the condition affects people. But by about 20, a lot of people with CF will be looking at that type of option for them. It predominantly impacts the respiratory, digestive systems, endocrine system, and bone density, and again, David will go into all of that. As we mentioned, all babies are tested for CF. I mentioned to you that there's 1,000 people. It's a little strange too, but there's 2,000 genetic mutations. It's not just one, like I guess it's similar to cancer where there's a lot of variations on the type of cancer. It's similar with CF. And David, I think, will go into more of that stuff. Did you want to talk about this now, Dave? Given that we've got it up.
No, I'll talk about it.
Okay, all right. So what does it mean? Chronic lung infections requiring frequent hospital appointments. Complications, people with CF have complications such as diabetes. They often are sterile as well. They have trouble putting on weight and have rigorous treatment regimes such as percussion each day and all sorts of health issues. What are the treatments? Airway clearance, that's a daily thing for people with CF. If they get infections like all of us, they require antibiotics. Daily exercise, enzyme replacements, up to 40 to 60 tablets a day. And a couple of the posters that you'll see tomorrow that we've supplied you guys, somebody about to launch into breakfast, and rather than cornflakes, it's a bowl of pills. They need to have a high-calorie diet and take extra fluid and salt. This is Danny's view of living with CF. It's hard to have relationships with people because if you're sick or you're coming down with something, often you need to keep, if you're someone with CF, you need to stay away from that person. Unlike other diseases or conditions that people have, people with CF actually can't have a personal relationship with someone with CF as well because of cross-contamination issues. So it's really difficult to where you might have a mentor or somebody you seek with a similar problem that you might have. People with CF can't do that. They can obviously use Skype and blogs and all that other stuff, but they cannot have that personal type of relationship. As I mentioned, fertility can be an issue for them. School and education is also a problem, and I think if any of you are familiar with school these days and you look into the principal's office, there's a whole bunch of papers on the wall with things that kids have like anaphylaxis, and CF is one of those things as well. The schools also need to be quite aware too in case there's contamination issues. Work choices and opportunities, that's also really a hard thing as well, because if you're needing to go to hospital fairly frequently, you need to advise your employer, and sometimes people can be fairly black and white about who they would accept and who they wouldn't. Financial burden, it can cost upwards of $3,000 to $5,000 and beyond a year, and once somebody turns 18, there's not a whole lot of support for them, so it costs a lot. Obviously, grief and loss. I'm a parent, I don't know whether anyone else is here, but I just couldn't imagine that my kids would die before I do. That's one of the things that people with CF and their families have to face. And I think that would be really tough, knowing that you've got that clock ticking. I guess we all do, the clock's ticking for us, but if you could imagine that your life would finish maybe at 40 or maybe beyond that, what sort of choices would you make in your life, and what kind of life would you lead? Mental health and wellbeing. We provide some services at CF New South Wales, some counselling services. We have social workers, because like the question I just posed to you guys about your life, it could be fairly depressing too if you're getting sick all of the time, you're going to hospital, you're going away from your friends, away from your family. So we try and help people where we can, and there's a range of services that we offer. Social work is one. We do offer a physical treatment program or physical education program. We offer financial support, because some families, like everyone in New South Wales, has various levels of wealth or not wealth, so we help people where we can. We also fly people around, because there's 3 clinics in New South Wales. There's one at PA, one at the Kids Hospital, 4 Westmead and John Hunter. So if somebody's living in Wagga, for example, we will help them get to their clinic if they need to. And of course, planning for the future. I think, that again, if you think that your life is going to be short, again, what choices would you make? So again, this is Danny's. Constantly trying to stay healthy, eat right, work out, have good mental health. What can you do to stay well? Health can often go downhill suddenly. I mean, that's really what's happened to Danny. She was planning to be here today, and within a week she's kind of looking at hospital. Life is often put on hold. Daily activities can be exhausting, and the future is uncertain. So they're just some of the things that people with CF face. You might have seen this campaign, Yes to Kaleido. Kaleido works very well on one particular gene mutation. Do you think, okay, you can probably talk a little bit more about that, but it's recently been introduced into the PBS in Australia. So we've got some people that carry that specific gene. It works very well on them. So they're much healthier, they put on weight, and they don't suffer the same sort of symptoms. So it was a real breakthrough for people with CF, and so there's quite within the community, there's quite a real sort of urgency to invest in more research and try and come up with more drugs like that, so that there may be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. So this is what we do at CF New South Wales. We invest a little bit in research, but really what we do is provide support services to people living with CF. Practical assistance, and I talked about some of these things. There's a whole bunch of other agencies that operate. There's charities, there's government, and we sort of point people in the right direction. Some people, like one of the groups I used to work for, the Smith family, offer financial scholarships. So for a disadvantaged family, that might be an option for them. Another one is Centrelink or some of those other programs. That's one of the things we do. We also have medical equipment that we provide to people if they need them. We send people around to provide that percussion and airway clearance, fitness program, travel assistance I mentioned, and emergency financial assistance. Education and information. We're at the moment building a website that basically does that. We've got might have seen our website. It's a fairly clunky kind of tool because 8 state federations have input to it. We've just decided we'd bite the bullet and build our own and use it as an information portal. School and community awareness. Our social workers go out to schools. If they've got a new student coming into a school with CF, we'll often send someone out to talk to the school about how they manage someone coming into the school and what teachers and other kids need to be aware of. Support services, I mentioned counselling, advocacy and health coaching. Hospital engagement, we send our social workers into the hospitals to see whether we can provide any additional support to people coming into the clinic. This is just a bit of a blurb. We had KPMG do us an evaluation on our services last year because we really wanted to quantify what we do in the community. It's kind of hard. You can say that we sent out 27 social workers, we gave away this amount of money, we put people through a personal training program, but what does it all mean? So KPMG came back to us with a fairly comprehensive report, and these are just two of the paragraphs that came out of it, which at the end of the day they put a dollar value on what our organisation is worth. But more importantly, it was actually that we provide significant value. So these are the three things. Danny, being on board, has more of a strategic view of what we should be doing. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of charities across the country all doing different things, some replicating each other, and it's hard to know, who you should actually go to. I'm guessing some of you guys would support a number of charities. I know I do. I've got Medicine Sans Frontières, and we support a couple of kids, and I work for a charity. I do that because I believe in those particular things. But what we want to do, and to stay buoyant, charities these days where the government are continuing to cut their funding to them and wanting them to become more self-sufficient, is actually develop their own funding mechanisms. We don't have one at the moment. The way we do it is we raise money through activities that I run or third-party activities like the things that you guys do. Go out and spruik for us and raise money. But what we could do is something like have a commercial enterprise, for want of a better term, and that might be, I don't know, we might make pillows, for example, and they're really good and people like them, and we've cornered the market, and that's our commercial activity. I mean, it's always a risk in any business is, but maybe there's some food for thought for you guys to come up with an idea for a business for us. One of the things I thought of would be something that's an ongoing business. Maybe there's a steady stream of people going to it all the time, such as, say, a surf school in Byron Bay. You're always going to have tourists there. There's always going to be surf, so that might be something that we might do, but that's just an example. And be recognised as a go-to place for CF information. That was the website I was talking to you about, and at the moment we're seeking information for that particular venture now. So lastly, this is kind of our sort of compelling statement. Every 4 days a baby is born with cystic fibrosis, and every 9 days a young person dies from it. So that's what we're doing to try and change things. And with your help, we'll get there a lot sooner. So that's me. I might hand over to David, but if you've got any questions, do you want to ask now, or do you want to wait till David's done his thing?
Once David is done.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. So, my name's David, and as mentioned, I'm currently one of the medical students at the university. I was also involved in the coordinator last year, so for the first time last year, we ran this event together with Social Impact Hub. Well, it's one of our biggest fundraisers here. So, first of all, thank you guys all for being here. We really look forward to the fundraiser event tomorrow. And what I want to do is to give you guys a quick 5 or 10 minute overview as to medically what cystic fibrosis is and what that means for our patients. So that tomorrow, when you go out there, if someone asks you what this money going towards, then we have a quick answer for them. They'll have a summary at the end of a quick 3 or 4 lines that you can actually use. But this is what it's about. So cystic fibrosis is one of the most common genetic disorders that we see, especially in the Western world. It's one of those conditions that has many different genes, and 1 in 25 people carry one of these genes, which means probably one of you guys in the audience does carry this gene, and probably out of everyone sitting here, someone's going to have a kid who's going to be affected by cystic fibrosis. In Australia, that means 1 kid born every 4 days, and there is no cure for this. It's also one of the more complicated genetic disorders where it's not just one gene that determines whether you have cystic fibrosis or not, but there's over 2,000 different genes, and any combination, one, many, etc., could lead to having or not having this disease. So it's not as black and white as we're just going to fix this by finding a cure for this gene, because it doesn't quite work like that. So we know we said a lot about what happens to the lungs in cystic fibrosis, but what underlies this is that people with cystic fibrosis have altered receptors that manage their salt levels in their body. And you have salt exchange primarily in your lungs, also in your kidneys, in your digestive tract, in your eyes, in your mouth, in all sorts of different places as well. And this causes lung and digestive problems. So what you get is thickened mucus, much like when you have a chest infection or when you have the flu, and you spend all day in bed coughing, trying to get out of bed, trying to get all this mucus up and out of your lung. Right? People with cystic fibrosis have basically that on a long-term basis, which also makes them quite susceptible to infection. Because when you think about it, you've got all this gunk sitting at the bottom of your lungs that you have to cough up every morning. If you can't get rid of it, it's just sitting there, it's probably going to get infected, just like your old food in the fridge for a week, 2 weeks, it's going to go off. So this is a little bit of a picture of what it is. As you can imagine, when you get a lot of blood and mucus sitting at the base of your lungs, you're going to have trouble getting that out. Compare that to the normal healthy airway that we have. What we have is a very smooth lining with some thin fluid that allows us to breathe very easily, what we call surfactant. And on top of lungs, you also get problems with your stomach, in your small intestine, in the large intestine, and also in your pancreas as well. Your pancreas is the part of your body that regulates insulin, which helps manage your sugar levels. And this is why people with cystic fibrosis need to have a high-calorie diet, because they don't absorb the nutrients through their guts as well as we do. In kids, especially when they're born with cystic fibrosis, we screen them to see if they have this gene, because sometimes it can be silent. But sometimes you also get kids who are born and they can't go to the bathroom. They've got what we call a bowel obstruction. That requires quite a large surgery, especially with a kid that's probably this big, to unblock the bowel. And that occurs because they don't get enough movement in their gastrointestinal tract as well. So here's a picture. I know you guys probably can't see read X-rays, but you can appreciate here that there's a lot more white stuff sitting in where the lung should be sitting compared with the normal patient. And that's basically all the gunk that's sitting in the airways that the patient needs to get out. So what does this mean? Well, we have teams of doctors and nurses and physiotherapists and social workers who work with these children to try and get them the best results. But a lot of this, because it is a chronic illness and a long-term disease, requires the patient, their family, and their own mechanism of managing their condition. And the most tried and tested therapy that we have is physiotherapy. And basically that's just mechanical means like pounding on the chest, vibration, warm air, breathing in warm air, nebulizers, to help move all of this mucus. If you don't do that, then what you get is patients getting infections, which then lead to lung damage, and then they go on to transplant, just waiting for a lung transplant, or they need assistance breathing, oxygen, etc. The antibiotics and inhalers, they need salt, and for the patient, for the more serious patients, they often need to do 2 to 3 hours of chest physiotherapy a day. So if you think about a kid who has to go to school every day, gets to school at 9 o'clock, finishes school at 3 o'clock, They spend an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half after they go to school, just working this. Then they have to go see their doctors. Then they have to take their medications every morning, up to 40 tablets for more serious conditions. And then they get sick 2 or 3 times a year and end up in hospital. You can see how that can be quite a debilitating illness for anyone to have. Obviously that means, medically speaking, we say it's a reduced quality of life. But that being said, it's also important to remember most of these patients actually do really well. They go on to have jobs, have families, sit on boards of various organisations, and they do well. But the life expectancy now is 38 years. This has actually gone up in the past 10 years or so, and the reason for that is that we now have lung transplants that we didn't have in the past. And organ donation rates in Australia is also going up, which is quite a good thing to know. So, this was slide stolen off the Cystic Fibrosis website. This is some of the things that Cystic Fibrosis New South Wales website. This is some of the things that they do, but I just want to touch on hospital engagement here. One of the things that's often overlooked in the community is that doctors, medical practitioners, and nurses actually rely very heavily on different organisations to help us achieve the best outcome for patients. So you all know how cancer research has been a very big issue, highly talked about in the media, lots of fundraising in the past 10 or 15 years, and cancer survival rates have gone through the roof. Like, they've gone up very, very quickly. There's money being pumped into research, there's money being pumped into support services. And this is kind of the trend in medicine, is that the most common or the most important conditions as perceived by the community tend to get a lot of funding, whether it's from government or through charities, because that's where all the hype is. But that doesn't mean, or that doesn't preclude all these other conditions that really need more funding into research, into different treatments, and definitely require support services for patients who are going through them as well. And I guess one of the challenges that cystic fibrosis patients have is that it's often a bit of a silent disease as well, in the sense that if you have a cancer patient and they're undergoing chemotherapy, they go bald because that's what chemotherapy does to you. And everyone in the community knows, oh, that patient has cancer. And it's one of those things that everyone has in the front of their mind. But cystic fibrosis patients, unless you know how to enhance their life, and unless you work with them, or are friends with them, or have a sibling who does have cystic fibrosis, it's often hard for people to understand what the condition is really about. So that's why the work of not-for-profit organisations in medicine is so important to doctors and nurses and the health system, and to the patients especially. So as I said, I give you guys a summary of what to take away. If someone asks you tomorrow what you guys are fundraising for, here's what to tell them. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic condition. It affects approximately 1 in 2,500 children born, or 1 child born every 4 days. And it causes lung and digestive problems, and there is currently no cure. That's all from me. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you all for getting involved, and good luck with your fundraising tomorrow.
I just wanted to know that, as you mentioned, that there can be many of us who have it or whatever. So I understand that kids are tested. Do we have tests for adults, for people above 18 to get themselves tested?
So it's a lovely question. It's a little bit complicated because there are so many different genes that can cause cystic fibrosis. But adults can be tested for some of the most common genes, and this is always offered to patients who are planning on having pregnancy or planning on having a child and either know that they are a carrier of the gene or have the disease run in the family. So we are able to test for the most common gene mutations and tell the parents whether it's likely or not likely that the child will have cystic fibrosis. But it's not absolute simply because there are so many other variables and so many other factors.
Both of you mentioned the lung transplants. That doesn't help long term, right? It's just like for the treatment. I guess if the lungs have gone bad, it doesn't cure the disease by any means or reduce it.
Well, It actually does. It's not curative, but it has a much bigger impact because when you have a lung transplant from another person, what you then get is that person's DNA or cells or genes from that person's lungs. So the lungs no longer have a cystic fibrosis mutation, so to say, but that does leave the patient with other complications such as the bowels and then get the GIT. But also there are many complications associated with transplants as well.
I would like to know when is the manifestation of the disease? Is it when you're born, or you can have a manifestation in your adulthood?
So we do screen all children who are born in Australia for a number of genetic diseases. It's routinely done to all ladies, so that we can prevent diseases such as cystic fibrosis from getting worse than they need to be. Most children, when they are born, from very early, and I'm talking a couple weeks old, you will know that they have cystic fibrosis because they have lung problems, but there are other patients who actually do quite well and might not realize that they have cystic fibrosis up until a late stage, late teens, small subset.
Yeah, just on that too. I mean, we've come across one woman in particular who's in the Air Force, who's a pilot, and it wasn't until she was 27 and had lived a very healthy life, but carried the gene and had a condition, but was just starting to exhibit some of the things that relate to the condition. So it really varies. Some people can be relatively healthy, and some people can have it quite severely.
Has there been any progress in terms of trying to find a cure? Is there any, is it feasible in the future to actually find one?
Look, I think in future, we're talking maybe many years, 50 years, 100 years down the track, gene therapy or genetic technology will come to a stage where it is possible to screen for and deal with many different genes, thousands of genes. But at the moment, and that's purely speculative, but at the moment, the best that we can do is to deal with a symptomatic approach. So if the patient has lung problems, we deal with lung problems. If the patient has GIT problems, we deal with those problems. The mask with the medication that Stephen was talking about earlier, that he showed the slide up, that is a medication that targets one of the receptors, but that is the receptor mutated with only one form of cystic fibrosis. One of the more common ones, which is one of them.
You said that the life expectancy in Australia is raised to 38. Is that similar to other Western countries, like the US or the UK? And are there any other treatments in countries that might have more funding, better treatments for cystic fibrosis?
I'm actually not too sure of that one. My understanding is that that's in developed countries. Obviously, because this type of research is really carried out in developing or less well-funded systems. Thanks so much.
Thank you, David, for being here today. I would